Hey guys, I'm here with Dimitri, our locals winner. He went 4-0 with beautiful Doffy. I'll let him take over.
Awesome. Yep, this is Doffy. He's my pick of the format. I love him. I think his consistency is insane. The fact that you can, there's all the deck rigging you can do to make this get value pretty much every turn is insane. You populate the field, your opponent can't deal with it. Even if you're just attacking for 5 or 6k at a time every turn, doing that 3 times whittles your opponent's hand down to nothing. You just play the long game. That's what Doffy does. You're not in a rush. You're putting blockers, you're vomiting onto the field. If they don't deal with your field, you win, because you've got like 5 swings, you just put all your don. So they have to deal with your field and then just vomit it back out again. That's my play style with him. So I'll just, I don't know, just go. So I'll put him there. Number 1 star of the deck. Every game you want to see her. For Perona. She's everything. She is what you do on turn 1 when you draw her, because that Don 1, boom, Don 3, you can use Doffy leader ability to whatever you set up here. She's definitely the card that takes, like, I'm going to say, largely the most skill to organize in this deck, because you need to remember what you stack, remember what order you did, and not only keep in mind the ordering of your draws and your deploys with Doffy leader, you also need to be aware of the cards you're going to be drawing in between the deploys, and you kind of have to read what your opponent's doing. Like, for example, if I'm fighting a Kaido, I'd be kind of hesitant to put a Blackbeard as my next one, because they're going to usually Onigashima. Maybe they'll have a cost 2 blocker, but that's just not always going to be the case. So Blackbeard usually goes down, and either power cards like Hancock or Hawkeye come out because they're my best targets. Or Kuma, he's also good. Anyway, it depends on the situation. That's why sorting what you do with her is pretty much what's going to decide the rest of your game. Even though and you're going to be doing this over and over again too, as much as you can. So we'll just keep going. Cost 1 law blockers. It's early format. Just 4 of these. It's a cost 1 blocker. It's always good. It's always good. In a pinch, when your when your Perona checks are really, really bad, and you desperately need something on field, he does count for it. I don't recommend doing that, but when you have a really good field and your mills really suck, sometimes it's worth just popping a law on because they won't attack it because you've got other things to deal with. Anyway, in any case, you want to play this from hand. That's it. You don't want to see it otherwise. So we'll just go from there to non-maxed out Alvida. I'm 1 off. We'll get there. We'll get there. It's fine. Honestly, I'm going to be real with you. 2k counter. That's it. She hasn't got the traits. Her traits suck, but she's a 2k counter. I've literally used her on-field ability once. You kind of have to predict your opponent's spamming blockers. Like in the blue mirror, she's probably the best bet. But the time, I don't know, playing her is hard because you pay 2, put her on the field. That means, like, in the early game, you're potentially not using Doffy, you're not potentially using other better cards, and then you have to wait a turn to then give her a Don and swing for 4k. It's like, well, you can hit for 4k. You have to give it another Don to have a meaningful hit, probably. And by then you've spent 2 Don just to return a low cost and trash a card from your hand. Like, it's just not worth it. Yeah. In an emergency, maybe. Like, if your opponent has, like, 5 cost 1 blockers out, you might chuck her down. Like, that's it. I don't know. I've used it once, and it wasn't good. She's a 2k counter, though, and blue needs more of those, so she's in. She's in. Doffy, number 2 star of the deck. Imagine if Perona was a blocker. Boom, it's Doffy. His stat line is insane. 4k... I swing with this dude all the time, because you can. It's very cheap. When you are using the rest of your effects, occasionally you just have 1 or 2 Don lying around, you can slap them on Doffy and attack. And because, because of the nature of the game of One Piece, he kind of acts like a pseudo blocker even when you attack, because people want to get rid of him while he's rested still. And so he's kind of still doing his job even while you're attacking. So often you can just throw out an attack with Doffy, very free, assuming you have the Don lying around. Otherwise, it's a blocker. And otherwise, the best part is, of course, if you don't get Perona in your opening hand, but you see Doffy, keep it. It's worth it. Like, shuffling just for Perona, I don't know. You need to also be able to play without Perona, which is the thing. And this guy's the next best thing. You may as well. Just keep your hand if you see him. Yeah, that's all of Doffy. He's a very good card. Now we're into our final Warlord targets. Oh, that's another thing. He's a Warlord target. He can be summoned from him. It's not great, but at the end of the day, it's still an okay stat line, and if they don't kill him, he's a blocker. It's just better lore if you have the choice between the two of a blocker to play with him. Plus, you get to check your cards afterwards, so if you fucked up and you got him, at least you can fix it. That's the best. It's not the best target to hit, but in an emergency,
we take it.
Okay, yeah, exactly. Moria. Yeah, this is a warlord you love to see. He is insane. MVP of the deck. You win. Like, a well-timed Moria is game-changing. My finals tonight, I drew Moria and won that turn because... I set up a board that meant they couldn't deal. So Moria, on play, you get a Thriller Bark or a Warlord to your hand that's cost for a lot. That's most of your deck. Most of your deck is that. There's one or two cards that don't fit that trait, but otherwise, he can get anything but himself. So, in both scenarios where he could be played, he's insane. So even in the early game, you can save him and wait for the end of the game when you have a retreat, a graveyard, trash area, whatever it's called in this game, a trash area. He can grab whatever you're looking for. Now, whatever you're looking for can just be Blackbeard to bounce their cards. We're going to hit Blackbeard soon. So in an emergency, if they've got a blocker and you know you can win if you just get through a blocker, boom, play Blackbeard immediately, 2 Don to use however you like and just do your attacks. Otherwise... And he can also bounce Killer too, as a result. Otherwise, he can also lead to Doffy. So, for example, the curve on this is so good, and this is what I did in my finals tonight. I drew Moria, boom, played him, added Doffy to my hand, played Doffy, arranged my deck. I had 3 Don left, used my leader ability, and leader ability got me a Boa. Suddenly, out of 1 card, I have 3 cards on the field. And I have my next draw rigged as well. And my next Warlord underneath that rigged as well. Like, Moria, when you have a lot of Don, will save your life. He can also, if your Don's a bit tight, he can grab Perona to start rearranging because she's a Thriller Bark Pirate. So she's not a Warlord, she doesn't work with most effects, but she works with Moria. So that's a bit of surprise synergy. Otherwise, he can also grab Law, just as an emergency blocker. Like, you know, if your Don is tight and you just need a blocker, Moria can get it. If you're looking for something, he can get it. He's so good. Underrated. I mean, every Doffy player runs him, so he's not actually underrated. But like,
he's still underrated.
People who don't play Doffy don't understand how good this card is. He will get you whatever you need in any situation.
He's also a +1 in hand size when you use it off leader effect.
Yeah, and it's even better. Even not playing from hand.
So good.
If you stack him on leader, you can get... Basically, you have a body on board, already fantastic, but you can get any Warlord from grave to your hand. Good. And that includes Hawkeye, who we'll get to, who's a 2k counter. So if you just want a 2k counter just to survive the next turn, awesome. Or you can get something to play. Like, it's literally, you have so many options. It's such an insanely flexible card. It's like, Red has Uta, and this guy's just strictly better. Like, better stat line, he's got a counter, he has better targets, he's really, really good. Underrated, overpowered, super good card. Now, if you're not doing combos, Boa is your go-to. I go 4 of her if it's not clear. All of these have been 4 ofs, by the way. I'll make clear when I don't run a 4 of. But this is 4 of. She's absolutely amazing. She's your power card who, if you're like, I don't have a retreat area for Moria, I don't really have a Pacifista to combo with Kuma, I don't have, like, if you're missing something to do a cool combo, just get Boa. Because she is a huge problem card for your opponent. You play her, they are going to spend their turn trying to kill her, and if she survives, it's such a good feeling. Because if she survives, you just start drawing cards, and Doffy's such a defensive deck that you want as big a card, a bigger hand, big field, big life. You want as much as you can of everything. So if she can just maintain field presence and smack your opponent in the face over and over again, getting you draws, awesome. And your opponent will be desperate to kill her. And worst case scenario, in a clutch scenario, you can play her from hand and she's a fucking blocker. Like, she's awesome. like, and then if she survives the blocking turn, gets you a draw, then she starts attacking. Like, there's super flexible card. Very rarely don't like seeing her. Maybe towards the end of the game, she loses a bit of steam and power because you're trying to close out the game and she's a bit slow for that. But it's not that big a deal, I don't think. I think it's still worth it because, like, you're on turn 3, if you're Perona and then Doffy leader, this is who you want. This is who you want, because if you keep her alive through their attacks, especially against Kaido or something, who's only going to have 1 attack with their Kaido, and they're going to be Onigashimering, like, they're not going to kill her.
Yeah.
And if you keep her alive going forward, you start playing more blockers, you get more draws, she will get you free cards. And it's like in Kid or any green deck when they play Bonnie, if you don't kill her, it goes out of control. Hancock is the same in my books. Hancock is the same. Super good card. Hawkeye. Same as Alvida. It's a 2k counter, but he has awesome traits. He's a warlord. That's enough. That's all you kind of need from him.
Searchable.
He's a searchable warlord. Moria can grab him. In a pinch, Doffy can deploy him. And to be honest, he's not actually that bad to deploy because, again, 5k body's a 5k body. But even more decently enough, he can fix your hand if you need to. And I don't know, it's still a body. As far as targets go in this current just one booster pack, he's great. Especially because he's a 2k. That's the most important thing. That's all you're kind of mostly using him for. Other Warlord MVP, Teach. It's insane how good this card is. This at the right time it's game-changing, game-winning. I was versus Zora in the finals. His turn 3, he played Robin. I Doffy leaded into Teach. Robin went to hand, his field is empty. He was on the back foot the rest of the game. He could not recover from losing Robin. Putting any cost 3 away, you put away even attackers like Robin, just to interrupt your opponent's flow, super powerful. And even better, when you're closing out the game and they have blockers, so valuable. You can put cost 1s away, which means they can't counter from hand because they cost 1. Or better yet, you put a killer away, which, okay, they get a 1k to the hand, but they lose the draw, and they've spent 3 Don trying to do that. Super, super duper good. There's so many cost 3 or less that you need. I've seen some people play only 3 of him. I play 4. I think I need to see him as much as possible. Because there are matchups where he is a little bit useless. Against purple, I'm going to be honest, maybe you'll hit Higurashi, maybe you'll hit Black Maria. That's it, though. It's not so good there. When you see him, you kind of put him towards the bottom, maybe, when you're in your stack pile. But against Law and Zoro and Kid especially, Kid gets fucked by this card. Any green deck gets absolutely ruined by that card. And you'd think even against red, they have so many rushes and on-plays, it wouldn't be good. But even just putting away Rush Zoro just means they have 3 less Don next turn. It's still worthwhile. If you couldn't kill the Zoro otherwise, at least. It still gives you options.
One thing I'll say about Teach is when you swing with Doffy, if you play Teach, you can bounce their blocker so they can't block with it. Just in terms of how...
In terms of sequencing, exactly. That's
so good.
That's 100% true. Stacking him with one of the stackers and then Doffying him out to put away a blocker, so good. Amazing combo. Ridiculous. Again, he's yet another amazing Warlord target. Once Doffy gets more and more Warlord targets, he's going to escalate out of control. I already think he's a great anti-meta pick because, I don't know, there's just not as many people playing with him, and I genuinely think he's as powerful as the other decks. I'm not going to say he's the best. Let's be realistic.
That ult art is pretty...
That ult art is beautiful.
Yeah.
I think it's my favorite leader ult, easily, I think. Perfectly captures his personality and character. It's so good. Now, here is the unusual edition that I don't see most Doffy players using, but I love using, Sentomaru. 4-0. Underrated as hell. I don't know why other Doflamingo players play him. Actually, I do, because, I'll be honest, I didn't used to play him for the longest time. When I was testing this deck when that came out, I wasn't using him, because his traits suck. Navy, no synergy whatsoever with anything in this deck. The traits are absolute garbage. Seeing him at the top of Doffy, bad. Obviously you want to rig it so that you're not running into Sentomaru. But in a desperate situation where you don't have a peak and you just need something from the deck, it does feel bad to run into Sentomaru, because other more consistent Doflamingo decks will be able to just guess and be able to get it deployed most of the time. But with the Sentomaru engine, that does go down. And I think the solution to that is you don't do the random bets with Doflamingo. Unless you're about to lose.
Yeah.
It's just not worth it in my opinion, which is why it's okay to run this. So, and a surprisingly good combination you can do with Sentomaru and the Pacifista engine is, sure, you can't deploy them with Doffy's leader ability, but when you're rearranging your deck with Perona or Doflamingo, what you do is, for example, let's say Teach, and let's just say it's just these guys. What you do is, if you're about to deploy this turn, you see this pile, it's oh shit, what do I do? Well, what you do is you put Teach ready to go, and then next turn you will draw into Sentomaru, which is awesome, because you can start playing him and use his abilities, and then boom, boom. Being able to rig a Sentomaru draw, anyone who played Deck Limited Battle knows how awesome that is. Yep. It's Deck Limited Battle Blue was looking for Sentomaru the whole game, and with this, it's surprising consistency. You can just get him to your hand when you need him, way, way more often. So, he doesn't ruin the consistency of drawing just the consistency of leader abilitying, and just don't do it blindly and you should be fine.
Or do it blindly and be lucky. It's like...
Yeah, exactly. Or, yeah, exactly. There's that ultimate luck level, unfortunately. And another weakness of this deck that I have seen, and I do think is quite real, is at the end of the day, if you just mill 5 really bad cards and put them to the bottom of the deck, that sucks. It sucks. It puts you so far behind, and occasionally have to do it. Like, sometimes I'll just see 3 law blockers and be like, I can't do anything with this. And you just have to reset and hope you get it next time. Or if it's bad enough, just start gambling because you're like, oh, I put 3 bad targets away, maybe I'll get it. I don't know. Anyway, that's more general mechanics of this deck. I'll get back to the deck. Now, as part of the Sentomaru engine, we all know his ability. If you play deck limited battle, you get Pacifista from the deck. I think just playing it and getting like 3 and then 3 more Don, 6 Don for a card, in my opinion, for 2 cards is totally worth it. Because you get 2 bodies, and not only, I think it's okay value the turn you played, I think it's pretty good value, if anything, but if Sentomaru survives, and you start doing that over and over and over again, your opponent is fucked. And there's also one more Pacifista we run. I run one of the blocker, because drawing him sucks. Hate drawing him. Bad. Very upsetting to draw him. But in a pinch situation where you're like, fuck, I'm out of blockers and they've got like 2 Rush Kaidos coming at me, you can pay 3 and get a blocker. And pay 3, get a blocker, awesome. Pay 3, get a blocker from deck, anyone would love that effect.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
That's just insanely good value. But only one of, because you just hope you don't draw it, basically. That's the gameplay. Running more, you could run more. I think you could edit the ratios of Pacifistas to your preference, but this is my preference. Because I just want lots of these to go there. People saying Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
Yep, don't mind them. And kind of part of the Pacifista package is Kuma. Kuma. So, okay stat line, and he's a blocker, and he can be played from Doffy's effect. So Pacifistas can't be played through Doffy's effect. They've all got terrible traits. Doesn't work. But Kuma, when he dies, he plays a Pacifista from hand. Now, if you draw any of these during the game, you're like, shit, what do I do with this? You just throw them away for counters, and this one's stuck there. But if you have a Pacifista in your hand, and you see Kuma, he's a 3 of, because I don't want to run into him too much, but running into him every now and again is good. Then, if you have a Pacifista waiting in hand, it comes out here rested. Now your opponent is stuck with 2 dilemmas. Kill it, and a 6k comes out to fuck it next turn. That they have to deal with that turn or get hit by 6.
Or theoretically a blocker.
Or, exactly, or a blocker if
bad.
they're trying to go for game, like, oh, well, I don't hit it then. But then what they do, so if, say they decide, I'm not going to kill Kuma because I don't want to deal with this shit. He goes stand, and he's a blocker now. And during their next turn, guess what? They're going to have to hit this guy. And 6k will blocker come out, and then you're in business. He gives your opponent, he gives your opponent a really shitty, annoying choice they have to deal with. And, you know, and he populates the field with Doffy's leader ability. He's just another target. I don't think he's worth running, to be honest, unless you're running the Pacifista engine, but I am, so you do him. He's basically free. During my last game, I literally played him from hand, had this Pacifista in hand, it was not a very good situation, but I drew him, played him as a blocker, boom, blocked like a Shanks with this, and then I went for game next turn. Like, you can pack 2 blockers in one, or put a 6k on board. Oh, and another great thing you can do with Kuma is that he's basically a fake out in the right situation too. Sometimes I just put him out there from Doffy's, even if he's rested, and I have no Pacifista, but sometimes they don't attack because they're like, oh, I can't deal with the 6k next turn. But when you think about it logically, you should pretty much always attack, because eventually you're going to have to get the 6k.
Yeah.
You may as well do it on your terms without being a block. But anyway, you can mind game people. That's what Blue's good at, so you may as well. So that's the Pacifista engine. We're nearly at the end of the deck now. Hopefully I haven't over or under explained any of my cards. Fingers crossed.
Been good, been good.
And then we've got the big boy. Some people opt to run the Doflamingo as well as Mihawk. Personally, since my build already has Sentomaru and that whole engine of untargetables with leader ability, I want to run as little untargetables as possible after that. And Doffy was the first to go. I think Doffy's a good card, but in the current meta, his best pick is cost 7 Kid, maybe cost 5 Law Blocker, that's it. He doesn't really hit anything valuable in my opinion. He can just, like, the only other cards I can think of that I'd want to bounce to the opponent's hand, Blackbeard can kind of get, you know? So I don't think Doffy does much. However, if you want to put something away for good, Mihawk does that. Spinning a cost 5 blocker, or an annoying Nico Robin that's about to pop off, or just even the unblockable Luffy who would be annoying to beat over 6k, you can just put it away for good and you don't have to deal with it. And like that's like a good on play, that's great, but the kind of underrated aspect of this card, 9k. This deck can't attack for shit. That is one thing that I will say is a huge weakness. If your opponent has packed a lot of 1k counters or 2k counters, they can survive a lot of your hits. And sometimes, to close out a game, you need Mihawk. To spin a blocker away, and then next turn, you just go 7 Don here, 3 Don here, or maybe even 8 Don, 2 Don here. No, you go 7, 3, but still. And then you can close out the game with 2 12Ks. You know, having that is super good. Or getting rid of a Magnet Kid by stacking a bunch of Don. Like, you set this up by spinning something away. Maybe ignore Magnet Kid for that turn. Next turn, get rid of their blockers, either Blackbeard or pretty much Blackbeard, or other attacks, and then you swing with 2 big attacks here. This is your only way to deal with Magnet Kid. You don't have a way out otherwise. If they play that card and you haven't got a Mihawk ready to go, your best bet after that is Blackbearding blockers away and stacking your leader, which is a solution, doesn't feel as good. I don't know. Just having a big body, you need at least one big body, no matter what, I think. That's just the way it is, you need it. Otherwise, you're in trouble. So, there we go. And then last card, kind of a spicy, random card, to be honest. It's mostly deck space filling. I think the current meta, at least in this deck, your bodies are so small and fragile that having big counters is not valuable in my books, because you just spend all your resources to keep Blackbeard, Moria alive, just let him die, because you just play more. You mostly want to protect your leader, but you do that with blockers and hand counters anyway. The reason I run this one still though is at 1, it's cheap as hell, 1 cost, easy, and then 2, if you really need to rearrange a deck, you can rearrange a deck like this. If you don't draw Perona or Doflamingo in the early game, this can be an emergency. Help me activate my leader ability game, please. And you can rearrange your draws. The trigger comes up every now and again. Draw 2, dish 1, that's plus. You pretty much always use the trigger unless you have a counter ready and you're about to lose, I don't know. You're always using the trigger, I'm gonna say. Anyway, it's just your third way of rearranging your deck, because you're looking for Perona and Doffy all game. And that's another thing, just seeing at the start is not the end. You kind of want to see a couple, if you can do it. Because with Doffy and Perona, another great thing that they're good at is they can arrange each other. That's a really important thing to do. So if I Perona, and then I see Doffy in the pile, and Mihawk, and let's get a good one, Boa. I'm like, okay, I want Boa to deploy next, but then I want to draw Doffy to start rearranging again afterwards. And then, Mihawk if I can do that, and then draw Doffy, and let's say this, but then you're going to be rearranging Desert Sparta away for a better card, hopefully, the deck isn't only what am I going to deploy from deck next using these abilities, but what am I going to draw in between those deploys, which is really important to think about. Maybe that sounds obvious, but I still think it's I don't know. Yeah, it's not just you vomit the field out. You vomit the field out and you have a vision to the future, and you need to predict what your opponent's going to do and what is the best thing to do. Another classic is if you're about to curve onto 9, you might want to set up a Mihawk draw, because maybe you're reading, oh my god, my opponent's going to play a king to blow up one of my dudes. Boom, put king away. They go behind, and then they're potentially going to 10-drop Kaido to blow him up, but that means you've baited the 10-drop by just playing that, You're trying to read your opponent at all times. You're reading your deck, you're reading theirs, Master Manipulator Doffy, it's very on theme. You just have to, it takes a lot of, I don't know, brain power without sounding too conceited. You really have to just be clued in and know the game and know your opponent's decks. If your opponent's playing a deck you have no idea what the effects do, Doffy's going to be quite hard because you can't predict for it. But anyway, that's that. I've won this locals with it. I've won 3 other locals with this Doffy. I've won them all. I did lose one with it, but that's fine. You can't win them all. Sometimes Zora just smashes your head in, it happens. He just rushes at you and you didn't get enough blockers and that's that. But I beat the same Zora tonight, so that was good at least. That's Doffy. Sentomaru is the underrated pick. Oh, that's one last interaction I want to talk about. When you are fighting Purple, who is Blue's famous bad matchup, from DLB to now it is still the bad matchup. What you do is if you find Sentomaru against Purple, do not play it until they do the 10 drop and wipe your board, because they are waiting to 10 drop wipe your board, because you're vomiting shit out non-stop. They're like, when I hit 10, I'm going to do it. And then by the time they're at 10 don, you're probably at 9, 10, maybe 7 if they were really fast, but probably 9 or 10 don. And 9 don is a perfect curve with this package, because say they've wiped your field, it's all gone now. They just kited it. Boom, Sentomaru. You pay 3 for Sentomaru. You pay 3 then for Pacifista. And then you pay 3 for leader ability. And let's say you get fucking Boa and Hawkeye, And suddenly they just wiped your board and you have 3 dudes. It's so good. You need it. Because if you don't have that, maybe you'll get, 2 cards. 2 cards is good from just playing from hand and playing from leader ability. But having this one as well. It's not 3 cards. It's not 3 cards. It's not 3 cards. And even better, if this fucker survives, the multiplication is insane. You will just keep getting more and more if he survives.
100%. It can also get your blocker if you're on low life, because they're only going to have 2 attacks after their Kaido.
Exactly. And grabbing a blocker is awesome after their Kaido, because there's a 12k just waiting to smash your head. And an uncounterable 12k, well, guess what? Sento will get your blocker. He'll save your life. I like the deck a lot. You play differently most of the time. The plays you make are very similar. Perona, Doffy, Sento, Blackbeard, their blockers away. Those are basic, but what you do with your arrangement of your deck, predicting your draws, predicting what your opponent's going to do, and then lining up your Warlord deploys, that is what is going to be different every time. And you will agonize about some of those arrangements. And it is hard. It takes a lot of practice, and I've practiced a lot because I really like this deck. Blue is always my favorite color. I'm glad they have a good leader. Anyway, that's all. Do you have any questions, Matt?
Nah, it's all good. You've explained it super well. If anyone else has any questions, leave in the comments
below. If you leave in the comments and Max links me to it, I'll reply.
Yep. Exactly. All right, sweet. Thanks, Dimitri.
Thank you.
All right, see ya.